Hello there again, Chums. Back at the Box on the Downs, here we are again. Not been here for a little while, and this is a bit of a special Marc and Chums. It's the second in a series of 722 episodes, and this particular one is not so much interview, it's going to be just chat. And we do like a chat, and of course invited back, and I'm wearing the same outfit I did last time when we visited this lovely couple who I've known for 40 odd years in Walthamstow. And that is, of course, Linda and Gary Stratmann. Welcome again.
Hello.
And thanks for coming all this way.
Oh, yeah, it's a pleasure.
And cheers. I did have to view last night the Marc and Chums we did, which is about 3 years ago.
Was it as long as that?
Probably
longer.
No,
Yeah.
3 years ago.
It's 3 yeah.
Yeah, it tells me on the thing on YouTube. And I said, oh, is that quite a few views this has? So I was watching and all that just to catch up what we talked about last time, which was a myriad of things, but back to talk about other things over and beyond that. So, here we are.
Yeah.
Go ahead. One thing I'll have to start it off with is, last time you were doing you were writing what had just been published, number 3 of your series of Sherlock Holmes.
Yes, yeah.
And this time...
Yes, that's the front cover.
Isn't he gorgeous?
Oh, it's beautiful. And yeah, so that's actually coming out later this month.
Yeah.
But you can actually pre-order it, and that is number 9 in the series. So I've been a bit busy.
Yeah, well, I mean, how prolific are you?
Well,
How many books have you actually had published now? If you include that one?
including that one, I think it's 38. Yeah, something like that anyway.
Yes, not all Sherlock Holmes.
No, not all Sherlock Holmes. I've got 2 other Victorian fiction series, and there's also the non-fiction ones.
Poisoning and all that.
Yeah, Poisons, a history of medicine, I used to be a chemist dispenser, so it's something that interests me.
Yes. It's always slightly worrying, of course, when you realise your wife is writing a book on history of poisoning, and you think,
That was mentioned in our last programme, and I think you said, oh, she tested everything out, but without the poison in it.
Yeah, exactly.
I think a friend of
You
yours
leave that bit out.
A friend of yours had come round or something, I remember you saying that,
Yeah.
looking up, about to sit down to have some scrumptious, Linda Stratmann down, she knows how to cook, love, I can tell you. And he was saying, a bit worried about this. There's all those books up there on poisoning.
But it'd be a bit obvious, wouldn't it, you know, if I did something.
Well, it could be a bluff.
It could, double bluff, yeah.
So you got, I mean, I can't believe it. I mean, I know you dedicated one of your previous ones, but that was a different series to me. I mean, 8, and you've got number 9.
This is 9.
That's 9.
And I'm actually, because that's completed, so that'll be out in a couple of weeks' time. Available for pre-order if you want to do that.
No, there's your camera.
Yeah. But I'm actually very busy writing the 10th one. So
and you've had an idea for the 11th.
Oh, I know what's happening with the 11th. I'm researching.
One of the things I find, because you know, as you avoid jobs you have to do by surfing the internet and things like that, you come across stuff. And I came across an image and I thought, oh, Linda will like that. So I forwarded the link to her, and without going into details, because obviously I don't want to give away the plot, as one famous comedian used to say, the idea said, by the time Linda's looked it up, and a couple of hours later she's got all sorts of information which she's passing on to me about what's going to be in the next book.
Yeah, because he sent me a photograph. I won't say what it was, but it was a photograph of an event. I thought, well, that's interesting, but I've never heard of who these people are. Researched them online, and I thought, that is exactly what I need for my next book. There you go.
I wouldn't know where to start. I mean, I would be sitting there thinking of this as, you know, there's a white piece of paper and I'd just stare at it, going...
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've been researching particularly Victorian history and things like that for maybe 40 years, something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, and the trick is knowing where to look to get the information. And also, a lot of what you need, you have to actually subscribe to an account, which obviously if you're doing this professionally, it's worth doing that. So I've got a lot of, there are free sources, there are paid for sources. And
well, obviously it changed, isn't it? So 40 odd years ago, it was down the library.
Completely changed,
you know, these days it's all there on a...
Yeah.
Well, we had a discussion the other night, about the Victorian era. And the thing is, the Victorian era is enormous. It's a very long reign.
Yeah.
And what was happening at the beginning of the Victorian period at the end are very, very different.
Yeah.
Something that quite a lot of writers tend to forget. Not Linda, obviously. But how many things that we just take for granted or are fundamental to modern life are actually Victorian.
Yes, they started...
1901 is the...
she died, Queen Victoria died in 1901.
1901, so that's the end of the Victorian era.
Effectively, yeah.
But bicycles, motor cars, railways.
Railways.
Telegram, which is the precursor to mass communications.
Yeah.
Tarred roads, tar macadam is a 19th century invention. Photography.
The rotary printing press enabled mass production of newspapers. I mean, and then you've got the trains that take them all around the country. That just changed everything. I mean, I tried to make a list, and it was a long list. Then there's all the medical things, the legal changes as well to people's lives. They're all fundamental. And as I said to Gary the other day, we could have had heavy-than-air flight in the Victorian period because there was a young British aviator who built a machine and he was going to test it, and he was killed in a glider crash before he could do it. 1899. We could have had heavy-than-air flight, Victorian, British.
Well, A.V. Rowe, as in Avro, as in the Avro Lancaster, did his initial flights in Walthamstow, and he had a workshop under the arches on Walthamstow marshes. And one of the things that if you want to have a look at some of the fascinating aspects of early aviation, Those Magnificent Men in Their Flying Machines is a brilliant film to watch because they recreated some of the very early craft. The Bristol box kite, because there is that, the one from that film is still flying, the Shuttleworth collection. The Row 3 or 4, which is one of his early ones, and several of the other attempts at improving flight after the Wright brothers are all in that film.
Yeah.
And the replicas are what survived, because the originals, well, let's just say the reason that aircraft tend to have the numbers going up is because they just kept crashing them. And you know, a landing you could walk away from was a win. So
yeah,
and that early period. But I think one of the things Linda's done very well with the books, and this is something you see with other people who write historical fiction, is that they look at something from that period that's interesting or potentially interesting to an audience and weave that into the storyline. Because I can't think of how many authors of the Victorian period have written about women's suffrage, because that's, again, starts in the 19th century.
Started there. Yeah, and because people, they always say, it's the most common question you get asked, where do you get your ideas from? And the thing is, I'm constantly reading, obviously, about this history, and I see something that happened, and that's fantastic, and I'm going to, that's a little nugget of an idea, which I'm going to build a book around, and so on. So it allows me to explore things that I find really, really interesting by writing a novel in which I include it.
Well, you just go on and on and on, don't you?
I do, yeah.
You get an idea, and then you can stow it on your back burner for a little bit, and then something will flick into your mind. I mean, I do. You know, my major problem these days is short-term memory, isn't it, Stephen? Thank you. And I go in, luckily a lot of the stuff we've done recently has been improvisation and won a couple of awards, thank you. I mean, I haven't got a big enough mantelpiece, you know what I mean? But it's that sort of thing. So and then things from years and years ago, don't they? They come back to you.
Yes.
Why have I suddenly thought of that?
When we've been going through stuff along to my mother, we found stuff that was family related, which brought back a lot of memories, but also some of the stuff that I found, I'm going to try and find a museum for. We found, amongst other things, her original national identity card that she was issued with when she arrived in Britain in the early 1950s, because they were still in use, and things like that, and her nursing certificates from the same period. All these things, and some of the stuff we found actually goes back to her parents, and I think we've actually...
Where was she originally from?
Jamaica.
Jamaica,
She's Jamaica, and she came over, she was the Windrush era, though she didn't come on the Windrush. She was actually supercargo on a banana boat run by Fifes.
Supercargo.
There was 12 of them and a lot of bananas, apparently.
Well, I ordered from... Betty can't be with us today because he's not well, bless him. I did Betty's order for Sainsbury's the other day, and he said, oh, I'd like some bananas, please. And I said, do you want one hand of banana? I always call them hands, or do you want a couple of hands? He said, oh, just one. You know what turned up? One banana.
One of the things that going on from the banana boats and that, the number of people, of course, that we know now about the Windrush, and there's a lot about that because of the history is now being remembered properly, but huge numbers of people came over from the Caribbean during and immediately after the Second World War, and then you had a wave of migration around and after the First World War as well, which is less well recorded because the records weren't kept in the same way. Yeah,
I mean, we've all come from different areas. I mean, my mother was not born in this country, which is why I haven't been able to find her birth certificate. Honestly, I do historical research on other people and I get all this stuff and I cannot find my own mother's birth. I think, also it didn't help that she gave me wrong information.
Well, no, let's be absolutely honest, she just lied.
Well, her passport says she was born in London. This was very misleading because I discovered that she was probably born in Russian Poland. I mean, it's an easy mistake to make, isn't it?
Well, she was very young at the time.
Just, a few thousand miles apart.
I think her sister was born there, so it seems likely that she was. But, of course, I don't know her birth name, so that's a bit of a problem as well. But anyway, we'll get round it. When things, maybe records get translated, one day, something will pop up and I'll say...
Well, I was adopted and, of course, for a long time didn't know who my mother was because in those days, dads weren't put on birth certificates. And then a friend of mine trolled through and I found out who she was. Madeline Patricia Wise. So she must be in her early 80s because she was very young when she had me. But at the end of the day, it's possible. You can sit there and not think, well, that's done and dusted now, and never going to and then find out a piece of information like that. But I've got probably no intention of trying to. She might be dead by now, for all I don't know. There's another plot here in the Sherlock, really, isn't there?
It's all grist to the mill. Everything that happens to you in your life or to other people, they tell you about it or you read about it or whatever, everything is all there in the collection in your head, and then something will come up and you think, that's a good idea for a book.
One of the things I think that is very important with Sherlock Holmes, I mean, the plot is important, and to a degree you've got to do more work on that, because the vast majority of Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes books are short stories. So Sherlock Holmes tales are short stories. So that's quite quick. You've got one thing to solve. But whereas this, in a novel length, you've got to do more.
It's got to be more detailed.
But the thing about it is, you've also, I think, got to do the Sherlock Holmes style. It's got to be the way Holmes worked, because the thing that some writers do, and I'm not going to obviously name any names, they try and make Sherlock Holmes the way they think he should be, as opposed to the way he was. And we have occasionally talked about how Holmes would view these pieces of information and what he would get out of them. And
Yeah.
because you're writing the early stories.
Yeah, because he's only in his early 20s, he's not met Watson yet.
Yeah.
By the photograph I can see that's sort of...
You're developing the skills and the mindset that becomes Sherlock Holmes.
And the connections as well in society, you know, because he's just decided to launch himself onto the world as a detective. And I commented, I think this is in the next book, the world was not impressed. You know, there are more experienced detectives out there, so they're not going to go to a 24-year-old, 25-year-old.
And also in the real world, at the time, this sort of detection was not something that was considered. It was detection by the police was very basic.
Yeah, and many private detectives then were retired policemen, or they've been chucked out of, maybe from they had one too many bevies, so they've been let go. But then they did go into being a detective, and they had all the skills and the contacts and everything. But it wasn't a highly regarded profession, because unless you're actually running an agency, but it would be a lot of looking through keyholes and lurking on street corners and that sort of thing. It was quite, it was hard working, long hours, and not very exciting usually.
It would be lovely to go back and just live through it for a day.
Yeah.
Mind you, probably need a bit longer than a day.
Longer than a day. Well, actually, people say...
We just have the edited highlights.
People say if you had a time machine, would you go back and everything? I mean, I'd be scared of not being able to get home again. But what I don't want a time machine. I want a time telescope.
So look back.
I can see what's happening, but I can stay here comfortably doing it.
Seeing in front. Well, mind you, I suppose to some extent there is that situation with television and all that these days. It's a bit of a time telescope, isn't it? You can look at it.
Yeah, you can't trust half of what.
Well, no,
because I mean the thing is,
all done for dramatic
purposes. You know, this is the thing, because particularly with things like poisoning, on television, you want your victim has the poison, drops down dead. You're a detective, has to then solve the mystery. You don't want them to spend several days thrashing about dying because you haven't got the time. Even though that is...
It's got to be.
That is, even though that is what would have happened in reality. So I can understand. It's, you've got to move through the plot and keep things going. In a book you can make things a bit more realistic. But people tend to believe what they see in a television drama more than the reality.
It infuriates me. And on that little note there, you're not going to be infuriated, but come back in a moment when we're talking science fiction. And welcome back. So I said science fiction, didn't I? But we could go anywhere. Literally, couldn't I?
That's kind of the basis of science fiction.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I came across a reference to recently was that generally, when science fiction is depicting future societies, with one or two notable exceptions, they tend to be dystopian. Because as the critic who was talking about this said, utopian societies are basically dull. And one of the things I noticed that when you see the original Star Trek, it's very much everybody's the good guy. They're all going out and exploring the universe and so on. And the bad guys, who are thinly disguised communists usually, are they're the ones they're fighting against. But it's mostly going out exploring. And when you look at the more recent iterations of Star Trek, there are a lot of cracks in the Federation that are being explored, and the Federation is not as nice as you think.
Well, it's interesting, Star Trek, the original, which is my favourite series, but not so much the animated series. So the films were great as well with the original cast. But if it hadn't been for Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz, we wouldn't have had Star Trek. Because she actually, with Desi Lee Productions, took it on, because that then became part of Paramount. And she took it on, saying, well, this is a goodie. She would always say, this is a goodie, we're going to do this. But they had to remake the original pilot, because the transmitting side of it. They thought it was all a bit too much. You can't have a female first officer. You can't do this.
Yeah.
You can't do that. Him with the ears. Does he have to have the ears? Of course, one of the most iconic things.
Yeah, I know.
And also, they couldn't. Unfortunately, the original captain, the actor, wasn't.
Jeffrey Hunter.
Jeffrey Hunter wasn't prepared to do it again. His most famous role is in The Searchers with John Wayne.
Mm.
But he went. His career sort of didn't really go that far after.
He also plays Jesus Christ in King of Kings. Jeffrey Hunter, very handsome man. And unfortunately, yes, he didn't do it. He was offered it and he thought about it a long time. And before William Shatner, there was many other people they wanted to play Kirk, but they then, because Shatner had done, Out of the Unknown and stuff like that.
Twilight Zone.
Yeah, Twilight. And Jeffrey Hunter actually fell at home.
Yes.
And had a brain hemorrhage. Quite young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, and he was. When you see him in The Searchers, for example, he's clearly a pretty skilled actor. I mean, he is asked to shout a lot in The Searchers, it has to be said, but you can see that he knows what he's doing, and you don't notice that he's up against John Wayne the whole time. He still managed to stand his ground, which is because John Wayne did tend to fill the screen.
Well, big guy, isn't he?
Yeah. But the thing, if you're really going back to the early science fiction, Metropolis is probably the first film that really matters. I mean, there's Journey to the Moon.
Yes, of course.
By
Méliès,
which is one of the very first science fiction movies ever made.
Yes.
And fortunately is now available in its original colorized version, because some fans managed to piece together the original, and it was hand colorized. Fascinating film, and it does create the iconic image. Sorry, it does create the iconic image of the moon with the rocket.
That's recognisable, even if people don't know what it's come from.
So Metropolis is just mad, and the amount of work. And Fritz Lang sounds like a very, very difficult man to work for. And when you see the scene where the city is flooding, he just got a bunch of kids and threw them in the water pretty much.
I watched that, I was horror stricken, not so much about the film plot as to what had to happen in order to do those scenes, which probably wouldn't be allowed nowadays.
Safety. I mean, people, when they were doing things like the big epics, even the original Ten Commandments, which was said to be it was in black and white silent. I mean, people died.
And I think at least people were certainly injured, if not killed, in the silent version of Ben-Hur, the chariot race, because they made the chariot race look good by offering a cash bonus to the person who won. And then, of course, they cut in the hero shots.
Ten Commandments, I saw that in the cinema.
The original version?
The
Charlton Heston.
Yeah.
Yes, because there is a silent.
I didn't see the silent one in the cinema.
Well, no, it is available. Mind you, I do like the Parting of the Red Sea in the colour version, which has a great Vincent Price in it and all those wonderful actors. And there's old Moses with his staff at the top.
I mean, it was very exciting when you see that in
that was done on a roof.
Yeah.
That shot of it going up like that.
Yeah,
very
amazing.
clever. I mean, but that was done in very good, rich Technicolor and all that. But the original one, the Parting of the Red Sea in the original version, isn't as spectacular.
Of course not.
It looks more like a puddle and somebody's blowing on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The thing with the early film science fiction is they were working very much within the limitations of what they could do. And if bring in Doctor Who, of course, where they had a budget of about £5 per episode.
Well, it was 260 yard and all in, wasn't it? Really?
Yeah, and you realise that the set is approximately the size of the room we're currently sitting in, and people are running out one door and coming back in another, having put on a different hat.
Yeah.
And the work that had to be done to get it to work. And when you look at that and you compare it to some of the modern films, you're thinking, could we actually just get rid of the CGI now and get back to the plot at some point?
Well, yes, it's over CGI. Isn't it? I mean, I remember seeing, and I always wanted to see it, because I had a great big book on epics, was the film Intolerance.
Okay.
And that is absolutely astounding, because all that was real. All I mean, and the Intolerance set stood in Hollywood for many years after, before it actually either burned down or it was, you know, taken for bits and pieces to go into other films. But no, as you say, CGI, or artificial intelligence, or whatever you want to call it, you know, you're sitting there, it's now got to the stage you're looking and said, no, is that real or is it not?
Yeah.
And you sometimes think, oh, well, that's not real.
But you could, I mean, before all of that, you could create powerful images which will last forever. Just think back to the original Nosferatu, Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. I mean, there was no CGI special effects there. They did it, you know, with beautiful sets of lighting and things like that. And those images were...
Max Direct, which I played, didn't I? I played a similar, well, it was called Nosferatu, wasn't it?
Yes,
But I remember that bit when he comes out of his coffin, obviously he's on a board, because he cuts completely, yeah. And of course when that particular version of Dracula, as it really was based on, because they couldn't use that, because the Stoker estate didn't want them to use it, he actually it's the sunlight that kills him, and it just fades away, which is a bit disappointing, I think. But,
Well, the thing with the Nosferatu is the earliest of the vampire films. There is, of course, an earlier film. There's Thomas Edison's Frankenstein.
oh yeah, I've seen that.
Which
as well.
is very short, thankfully. But it's fascinating for the period it's made. But really, you've got the horror film genre really starts from the German expressionist stuff, like the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, Nosferatu. But it's when Universal start making, and you get Frankenstein, Dracula, the werewolf. And the thing about it is, you were saying about the sunlight killing the vampire, which is not in the original book. They actually just stab him. The thing with that is, almost all the classic horror mythology is the universal monsters. Silver bullets kill werewolves, because it's in the film, because they needed a way to kill the werewolf. The light thing with vampires, which, okay, it's a Nosferatu, but it's really universal where they start. That's one of the classics. And the stake through the heart is a bit iffy if you look at original vampire mythology. The stake is to keep them pinned in the grave. And there have been found, archaeologists have found corpses with
stakes through that. And of course Hammer then was able to utilise from Universal their own versions of a more gothic look to their very, very beautifully coloured Eastern colour, Technicolor vision of it. But they were loosely based on the original.
But Hammer, of course, started early on with science fiction rather than Quatermass, where they recast Brian Donlevy as the American. Because, I mean, Brian Donlevy, fine actor, played lots of roles, not got a lot of range, really.
I saw television.
He was a bit of a drinker. And all that. And of course, my late friend, Rennie Glynn, was the script supervisor on Quatermass Experiment for Hammer. It wasn't called Hammer, that was called Exclusive. Who actually ran it and they changed it to Hammer because I think one of the guys' name was Hammer and they thought that's a good name. But yeah, she did that. She always said to me, you know, well, of course, don't forget Quatermass too. And she said there weren't any other Quatermass. I said, oh, that's how do you know? I said, because I've seen them. But they were transported from television into the Nigel Neal stuff.
I'm amazed I was allowed to stay up and watch it on television, but I was.
You're not that old, you know.
I am.
There's the Quatermass and the Pit, which is the third as well.
One of my favourites.
Get back! Who were they running from? What have they seen? Whom do they fear?
5 million answers to these questions, and every one of them is a shocker.
No, I saw it. Is he ill?
Terror, 5 million years old, spills into our time to make two worlds collide. What is happening here and now can affect the next 5 million years.
I think, and I'm not, yes, I am going to criticise it, it very much suffers from being written in the period it's written. It's very much, again, like anything else, it's the contemporary take on it.
Quatermass in the Pit, actually, with André Morel, actually exists totally in its original form.
Yes.
I think I saw it.
And I
some
even
years
think
ago.
I love Andrew Cohen playing Quatermass in the colour version, and with Barbara Shelley and all that. And it was really quite, I remember seeing that quite young, and I said, oh, this, you know, with all the stuff, you know, which was just loose gravel, but they made it look, it was really quite frightening.
Yeah.
All that sort, you know, Night of the Demons.
Now that's fascinating film.
Oh, what a great film.
We rewatched it recently.
So have I.
And
And watch it again and again.
Yeah,
we also watched Curse of the Demon, which is the American release version,
I've got both of them.
which is about 15 minutes shorter.
Yeah, because they wanted to cut some bits out, because they thought, and originally they didn't want to use the monster at the very beginning, the demon at the beginning, and I said, well, I don't think it made much of a problem, because I thought they didn't like, the director didn't like the monster. He thought it was too.
Well, the thing with the story, because you don't see the demon in a lot of detail in the beginning, it does, I think, increase the horror aspect. But the Passing the Runes, I think the M.R. James story it's based on, that's pretty good adaptation.
I love the bit when it comes, you know, when Dana Andrews is coming through the thing, and it's, you know, because Niall, the nasty piece of work, who summons up, you know, there's that, and summons up the demon, and you see, you know, the noise goes, and then this beautiful plume of smoke comes up, beautifully done, and of course when it disappears, it just goes, they just reverse the film and it goes back into itself. It's little, you know, little effects like that, which, you know, obviously took thought, were quite easy to, and very, very startling at the time.
And one of the other things I like about the film is that the villain didn't just get up today and decide I'm going to be evil. There's a subtlety, and he does things for his own reasons. I mean, he's still a very unpleasant man, but you can see him as a character. And particularly the scenes where he's dressed as a clown.
The demons of hell.
It is the night of the demon.
And tonight is the night that Dana Andrews, as a daring scientist, defies the mysterious, murderous devil cult in a desperate battle against the demons of hell.
Oh, why did you drop the poker?
Red hot.
It isn't, you know. Oh, my boy, you're as pale as death.
There was something in here.
He has been chosen.
I've been chosen for what? What do you mean?
Today I found all the pages of my desk calendar torn out after October the 22nd. I know why. He died on the 22nd. John, what's the matter?
The same thing happened to my desk calendar after the 28th.
The frightened girl. The master of witchcraft.
You will die, as I said, at 10 o'clock on the 28th of this month. Your time allowed is just 3 days from now.
There's an earthly sayer playing the mother.
Yeah.
And just, oh, do you like ice cream? Let me give you a treat. Yeah, and of course the Passing of the Runes. I mean, I do like the bit in the British Library when he comes in, he does actually pass it through to the Dana Andrews character, and it was Constance Cumming who played the woman, and I've seen it so many times. And what was his? Beckwith was in it. He played the medium.
Reginald Beckwith.
Reginald Beckwith. He played the medium in the little suburban house.
Yeah, that was good.
A wonderful cast, but I think that, Curse of the other lot from that sort of era I love was Village of the Damned and Children of the Damned.
George Sanders.
George Sanders, the original, with Barbara Shelley.
Science fiction has never imagined so strange or terrifying a story as that of the village of Midwich, England, cut off from life as we know it by some mysterious force. And later, at one and the same time, a child was born to every woman in the village. Children that grew to look like this. Beautiful youngsters behind whose fiery, hypnotic eyes lurked the demon forces of another world.
They're not human. They ought to be destroyed.
Forces put to such sinister use that it became a national emergency.
And the guy who played the son was something Peters, who was marvellous, the head blonde child with the glowing eyes. But when they did the first Marple film, they got another actor to play the nephew in that, and obviously didn't like that child's voice because I can't remember his name. He finished doing, last one he did was The Witches. They got him to dub this other boy's voice. And I said, well, why don't you just go with that young chap from Village of the Damned? And The Children of the Damned is just as scary, in fact more so in some ways.
I'm still waiting for a decent adaptation of John Wyndham's Day of the Triffids, because the original story on which it's based is Midwich Cuckoos. But Day of the Triffids is one of the great science fiction stories, I think, of the period.
I've seen that recently.
And in fairness, there's a good adaptation, television adaptation from the 80s, probably.
Yeah. With what was his name? John. It will come to me. Who was also into Sell Them All Our Days. It's really, it's well done. But the copy I saw, it was done in deluxe colour, and it really was quite ropey. It didn't have that.
Then there was a more recent TV adaptation, which was doing quite well until they changed the ending again. And
it's not dramatic enough. They've changed them for
But the thing is, they don't win in the end. They've got a way of winning. But the other thing I think that with Day of the Triffids, and this is something John Wyndham did quite a lot in his stories, is circumstances change. There is not an enemy per se, and people adapt to those circumstances or not. And in the Crack and Wakes is a similar sort of disaster story, which I don't think has ever been adapted.
I don't think I've ever seen that on. There's been sort of American B-movie type thing. That always has something coming out the sea.
Yes.
Because the Kraken was a great big squid, wasn't it, or something like that?
No, we never actually find out what the Kraken was.
But I think that's what they did in putting it into the old B-movie features back in those days, in the American. Let's do it on the cheap. Quota fillers. One of those, just bung it in.
The thing with the Wyndham stories is they're not that well known now. Probably Day of the Triffids is the best known, the Midwich Cuckoos second. But he's an author who's sort of faded from the public eye.
Genius, absolute genius.
Whereas you get people's writing, and H.G. Wells, people still remember a lot of his stuff. Conan Doyle, on the other hand, is almost exclusively known for Sherlock Holmes, possibly Quatermass, but he was an extremely prolific writer. I've read some of his other stuff. Fortunately, I haven't read Coming of the Fairies. You've done that, so I didn't have to. But a huge output. Historical, Brigadier Gerard, The White Company.
I read a lot of those many years ago. Yeah, they were sort of good rollicking adventures. he really thought he was going to be remembered for this. He had this idea of this elevated fiction that he was going to write, and he just didn't. He wasn't happy with the Holmes stories because he felt that was a low level of fiction. He wasn't happy with what he'd got and what he'd done. A bit like with Gilbert and Sullivan. Arthur Sullivan felt this, all these the comic operas, they're all very well. What he really wants to write is grand opera, Ivanhoe.
Yeah. Marvellous.
Enough said.
But on that, I mean, Sherlock Holmes is still here, and he's coming back again and again, down to Linda Stratmann and her copious amounts of work. So on that note, we're going to be back in a minute. Well, welcome back. Here we are again. So, now, on with the job. So, we're going to now talk about something that just came into your mind beautifully.
Well, yes. I've been thinking about the interaction between science fiction and Sherlock Holmes, right? Because you do. Now,
can I just jump in there for a moment? Of course, Sherlock Holmes does appear in a number of science fiction theories. He appears on the holodeck with Data in Star Trek The Next Generation. There is a story in which Sherlock Holmes and Moriarty are clones from the future.
Precisely.
And so on and so forth, but that's not really what you're...
Well, no, the thing is that there are so many different iterations of this character. Hundreds. I mean, what I'm doing is just one of them. When he's young, he's just starting out. But there are others. And people say, oh, well, you know, this person's written that, does that invalidate what you've done? And I said, no, because they can all be true at the same time. Because if you have multiple universes, parallel universes, there's a Holmes in each one. So they're all correct at the same time, they're not rivals. So I was thinking about this, because I know there's something, isn't there, where Holmes is an alien from outer space. No, I don't think he was an alien from outer space, but then I thought, if you wanted to make a case for him having been an alien from outer space, you could, and you don't have to go beyond what Conan Doyle wrote. Look at it; it's all there. I mean, just to give an example, he is clearly much stronger than he appears. Right? Look at that incident with the poker. I can't remember which of the stories it's in, but there's this bully who bends the poker in half. There you are.
I think it's a speckled band.
It might be, yes. And then Holmes says, oh, well, there you are, and then straightens the poker. Now, come on, what human being can do this? He's clearly an android, or some sort of, you know, it's that sort of thing. So, and if you go through it, you find all these little bits of evidence that suggest that he's somehow superhuman. In fact, Watson at one point says, you know, Holmes, you're amazing, you're hardly human, you're more like a machine.
Yeah, well, the fact that he's an expert boxer and martial artist and stick fighter when he never appears to practice.
He never appears to practice, and he doesn't seem to have a particularly good diet. But this is it. And people wrote to Conan Doyle. They must have done. Say, how is he able to do all of this when he's not big and strong and everything? And he actually answers that in one of his stories. That, oh, well, he led a very ascetic life. Oh yeah, come on, pull the other one. So it's that, and so the different versions of Holmes are not rivals. They're all true at the same time in all those different. So
well, I did watch the other day, and you're going to tell me off because it's not really anything to do with the Hound of the Baskervilles, but I did see the Peter Cook and Dudley Moore.
Oh my!
Interesting.
It's really funny.
Yeah.
They're all in it. They're all in it. And I remember when he's
and they're all at it as well.
They've got the three nuns at the start of it with Watson, with Dudley Moore playing this very over-the-top Welsh Watson. And Holmes has got one of his things on. He says, Holmes, are you in there? And he says, no, Watson, I'm in Budapest. And I had to watch it again because they bring into that, Kenneth Williams playing Baskerville, Henry Baskerville, and he is there playing the part as basically from Round the Horn. So he's playing that part and does all the Polari bit, one of the sketches from, and Terry Thomas is sitting there, well, were you able to drag yourself up on deck and just, no, we just came casual.
Yeah, I know.
And that was literally taken out.
Junior and Sandy, wasn't it? I remember that sketch.
And it's got some really weird, funny people in it.
Isn't Eric Sykes in it?
No.
He was in everything else.
He wasn't in that. He was in Theatre of Blood, Eric Sykes. But it was a very, very quick pace. Come on, Perkins. Come on, Perkins. That was Spike Milligan. Come on, Perkins.
And they do the Hopper, the Baker Street Hopper. That's a Peter Cook and Dudley Moore sketch where they're looking for a Baker Street runner. This guy turns up with one leg.
Yeah, oh yeah, they did. Yeah, the old. Yeah. But you haven't got anything there. I've got nothing wrong. I've got no problem with your right leg. I've got nothing against your right leg. Unfortunately, neither have you.
Yes, I know. It's one of the classic lines.
The other one that's a classically bad adaptation in a lot of ways is The Private Life of Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah. But
that casts Christopher Lee as Mycroft Holmes. It's fun, and they have the Loch Ness Monster. Of course. In fact, sorry to jump in.
I'm just saying that these pastiches, they are just pastiches, and I think they can be enjoyed for what they are.
That's what you've got to do.
Don't take them seriously, just have fun.
I did come across a story which I haven't gone and checked for myself, but apparently some people hunting the Loch Ness Monster found the prop that they used for the Loch Ness Monster in The Private Life of Sherlock Holmes at the bottom of the lock, and were rather surprised.
It's dead now. We're actually going to be talking about Zygons next, aren't we?
Oh, yes. Zygons, I like the Zygons, yes.
Yes, who of course reappeared in New Who, which is nice.
Absolutely.
Oh, well, I love the Zygons, they were great fun. But it's going on, I mean, they've been so many, I mean, I do like the Nigel Bruce and what's his name versions.
Basil Rathbone.
The Basil Rathbone. Basil Rathbone, who's in that wonderful comedy thing called Comedy of Terrors. What police is this? With Boris Karloff, Peter Lorre and Vincent Price.
Well, the cuts like that, you've got to watch it.
Starring Vincent Price, who, inspired by a seductive woman, is overpowered with lust to kill. Peter Lorre, too sensitive for both the life he lives and the lives he takes.
Butterfingers.
Boris Karloff, the ancient one, with a fount of sweet memories.
Alexander the Great embalmed in honey, so they say.
Abundantly blessed, Joyce Jameson, an unhappy, unkissed bride.
Aren't you coming to bed, husband?
Rhubarb, the cat in the house of unholy horror. Amazing Joey Brown, shockingly amazed. And inimitable Basil Rathbone.
Haven't you, sir?
Whose wrath will slash you to the bone.
And there's Boris Karloff being looking quite deluded, but he was the tallest one out of all of them. He was about 6'3". You know.
Was that Peter Lorre's last film? I think it was close to.
They also did The Raven.
Yes. With that's Vincent Price as well.
You know, but they were all filmed in this country. They weren't filmed in America. It was American International, but they were all filmed at our lovely studios, which we have in Brighton. And speaking of a mutual friend about studios and the amount of space that is used in science fiction, and even great big production numbers, you know, period things like this, like Holmes and all that. Elstree Film Studios, if you remember, which is our BBC studios, and they've got the film studio. There's 13 studios in that area. But the original frontage that was used in UFO, when the car comes in, that building, which I worked in, it's all being knocked down. And it's being replaced with new studios, because they really had got to the stage now, because Kevin's been over there, they're doing 3D tours round it before it's all demolished. And everyone's going, oh no, but if it's full of asbestos, then it's got to come down.
Yeah.
You can't use it. But they're not going to go into plush homes like they did at the BBC Television Centre. It's going to be just for studio-based entertainment work, which I think is good. Keep it where it is. Yeah. But I mean, I don't know, I mean, I've done a few things at Elstree, both the BBC and the film studios and all that. And the amount of work that goes into, you know, the carpenters and all that. I mean, like Cleopatra, they built most of the set, but of course then it was going to be Joan Collins playing Cleopatra with a completely different cast. And of course, it poured down the rain, the whole thing collapsed. She auditioned for it, Liz Taylor got it. They started filming, Liz Taylor got ill, the whole thing was put on hold, and then they moved the whole production to Italy, which was probably a better idea because the weather in this country cannot be, can you imagine sitting there, you know, I'm sure it rained in Roman times in Rome, but I don't think anything like the downpour they had up.
But then the sets and costumes ended up in Carry On Clear.
Infamy! Infamy! They've all got it in for me! So the one thing that Sid James comes down in that was actually worn by Richard Burton. So you think, oh, what? I do enjoy those. It's really quite outrageous, isn't it?
Oh yes, that's what I mean. There are quite a number of the Carry On films I happily watch over and over again.
Well, it's like, you know, talking about science fiction and even Holmes and stuff like that. The crossovers, because now the thing like, not so much Blake 7 I suppose, but Doctor Who and stuff like that, and even the new versions of Star Trek, are all crossovers, and you look at them, certainly if you look at the start of Pertwee in Doctor Who, all of those stories, look at them carefully, they've all come from previous ideas. You know, mostly it could be a Nigel Nil, I mean the Silurians and all that stuff.
Well, the roots of Doctor Who are in Quatermass, aren't they?
It's all from Quatermass.
Yes.
You know, when you look at it and go, oh, I know we got that from.
Yeah.
If you're in the know. But
when they showed the Christmas specials prior to Niji Gatwa taking over as Doctor Who, prior to Ncuti Gatwa taking over as
I can
Doctor
never
Who.
pronounce it, but he's apparently, or has he, left? See.
But with the David Tennants, when they did the Star Beast, the story of which was originally in the Doctor Who comic.
It was a comic.
And it was the Meep. I remember the Meep very well.
And that was played, the voice was played by Miriam Margolyes.
Well, interesting thing, story about the Meep, because this was when I was at university, and there was amongst our group of science fiction fans and role-playing gamers and stuff like that, there was one young lady who was very small and tiny little blonde thing, and when someone was annoying her, she would just turn to them and go, Meep! Which scared the hell out of people.
Really?
Yes.
Big butch fella like you, got fused like that.
Fortunately, she never did that to me, because I knew to keep her on her good side.
Yeah.
It was a skill that I have applied in other areas since.
Hello.
His mother brought you up to be scared of small dark-haired women.
Yes,
this is true.
How long have you been married?
32 years, is it?
I think that sounds right, yes.
Yeah. You're filling your life up with things, you know.
Hopefully, yes.
I've had to draw back because of my mobility situation, but you know, getting up, this is a day out for me, and I'm seeing my friends, and they become your friends as well. And aren't they a lovely couple?
Of course, that's why I invited them back, yes.
Yeah, is he? But
could we have that thing about being a lovely couple in writing? There's one or two people I'd like to present it to. It can go with the letter I have from my doctor saying I'm sane, which is obviously terribly useful.
Well, my doctor's about to change. I've had him for so many years. Yes, he's and David's leaving us, and I've got a lady doctor now. And I talked to him and upset because they all know me by Mark. You know, it's all that sort of business. They're all sort of saying to you, "Oh, no, you'll be all right with her." And I said, "Well, you know, I'd like to meet her, but I don't like coming down to surgery because I prefer to do it on the phone because what I can say in 2 minutes gives her or he more time with somebody who's actually in the surgery." Because having nursed, I, you know, got some idea of what my ailments are. But you're all doing quite well yourself, you know, and keeping busy. And all that, because, I asked this earlier, the things you two like doing, apart from being in each other's company, and there's love because the food is exquisite. She's got a fridge at her place, it's like the TARDIS. It is bigger on the inside than the outside.
I wish.
You adore, and it's, you know, apart from your reading and a bit of telly and all that, you adore art galleries,
yes,
exhibitions, cinema, real theatre, real, none of this dram, well, not, but you know, because I mean, at the end of that,
we've seen some amateur theatre that has been wonderful.
I know, and the amateur theatre, well, I'm saying amateur when a lot of people pay a lot of money to go and perform in Edinburgh and can't get a place to stay.
Yeah.
And I said, why are you bothering? It's £2,000 to put it on, and you're there, and no one comes.
Yeah.
Where, you know, there is wonderful amateur theatre. And a lot of things in my youth,
there are some of the things we've seen up at the Fringe that we still talk about and remember and think that had a completely original take on that play or something. I mean,
and how it's blossomed into...
Yeah, absolutely stunning.
I think that didn't the Play That Goes Wrong start out as
I think it did.
I love it.
Yes.
Yeah.
We went to see the comedy about spies a few days ago. That was very funny.
But they're then doing another, how they do it, I mean, God, the work that goes into the play that goes
there
wrong.
Is.
Because to make it go wrong and make it like that is, and of course a lot of the stuff is now on YouTube. You can see vast bits, and they had a TV series.
Yes.
And every single one, I just weep with laughter.
The thing I think that I've liked all their other stuff, but for me, the Play That Goes Wrong is because everything that goes wrong, if you've been involved in live theatre, that's all gone wrong at you at some point. Not all in one production.
I know. They did a Peter Pan, I don't know if you saw the play that goes on Peter Pan with David Suchet.
That was...
I think very big because I have done sort of, you know, Amdram, that if a comedy is got like, oh, that's 7 out of 10 or something, it gets 10 out of 10 if it's to do with the theatre. Because I love that kind of comedy. I mean, Noises Off is the quintessential theatrical piece. But I've seen things. I have been to plays when all the scenery just collapsed on stage.
What was the film?
And they kept going.
What was the film about the mousetrap we saw? It was a couple of years ago, and it was a film about.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of it now, but it did have. It was about the theatre company.
Who
It had the American actor in it.
Yes, that's not very helpful, is it?
No.
Well, Lady Saunders, of course, who was married to Saunders, who ran the Mousetrap for many years, was Katie Boyle, a dear close friend of mine.
Katie Boyle.
And she got me in touch with the then who was running the Mousetrap to utilise one or two of mine.
See how they run.
See how they run.
See how they run. And I've seen it, do you know what, I've seen it about 4 times over the years, and even now, you know, they say at the end of the Mousetrap, don't tell anyone what happened.
Yeah.
I can't remember what happens. Because it's actually a bit of a dull play, but I mean...
I've seen it a few times actually, it's quite fun.
I've had loads of... But Nick Courtney was here.
Yeah,
all sorts of people.
Everyone's been in it.
Yeah, everyone's been here.
It was like the bill of its day.
It really is, you know. I've got another 9 months on the Mousetrap. Sounds like a pregnancy, doesn't it? You know. But it's one of those things that you can...
If people come to London, they go and see it.
I haven't seen it in years.
A very high proportion of the audience were clearly tourists at the Noel Coward Theatre when we saw the play about spies.
But it was very well done. And first of all, the movement, choreography of the movement of the actors was so slick, so amazing, so fast and funny.
And some
brilliant.
of the background shots and the business and the references and things, because obviously there's a lot of references to spy films, James Bond and so on, but there's one point where there's a joke about the plank.
Oh yeah, the plank.
Yeah.
Remember it well?
Yeah.
Well, I'm afraid our time has come.
Ooh.
Yeah, and one assumes we've done number 2, and there's so much more to talk about for number 3, don't you think so?
Of course, yes.
Yeah, so on the note, I'd like to thank my darling friends who I've known for many years. The lovely Mr. and Mrs. Linda and Gary Stratmann. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
And it's over to you, editor.